Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. And today I'm really excited. We're going to have a guest on the show, the fabulous Chelsea from my team. And we're going to have a bit of a chat about some of the really the themes and the commonalities in where e-commerce brands are struggling at the moment as we head into late 2023, which is kind of crazy that we are at this tail end of the year. And I would say it's no secret really that it's been a pretty tough year for a lot of us, both as business owners and personally as well. And I think I don't know if you find this the same, but I think for me, when experiencing some challenging times, especially as a small business owner, it can sometimes feel kind of isolating, like you're maybe not cut out for this because you're finding it so difficult. And I find that in times like this, it can be really comforting to hear that others around you, especially those who you maybe look up to or viewers, maybe being a little bit more successful, are also finding the same things are challenging as you. And it's especially comforting to know that others have solved similar problems or dealt with similar issues and been able to go on and achieve success. And so one thing that we actually do in our business here is to collect a lot of data. So we're always conducting market research about our audience, e-commerce brands, obviously. And we do this so that we're able to, first of all, create relevant free content and resources like this podcast and like some of the free training materials that we produce and share, but also so that we can provide the right mix of services to our clients that will actually help them where they're at right now. And because we collect this data, we're able to draw some insights from it and really work out what are the common themes or common struggles that e-commerce businesses are experiencing right now. So today on the show, I really wanted to share with you what those common themes and struggles are right now and how some of our clients are dealing with them and thriving, and share some details about, what they're doing to get there. And I guess my hope is that you're going to find this content might be a bit comforting and inspiring and hopefully give you some confidence through to the end of this year and maybe into the new year as you think about or start planning for 2024. So, let's unpack this topic. So welcome to the show, Chelsea Papadopoulos, who is our brand growth advisor. And I think this is the first time I've actually had you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kath. It's lovely to make it onto the podcast.
Finally, I know. I don't know how many years we've worked together, but it's quite a few. So it's about time
Yeah.
you're here. So obviously, and for those of you who don't know Chelsea yet, so she's, as I said, our brand growth advisor. She's usually the first person that people speak to on our team. And really, your role is to help people figure out, what they actually need to do and what's appropriate for them to do at whatever stage business they're at to get to their goals.
Yes.
And you've been talking to lots of business owners this year. And so what would you say, are a few of these common themes that, people are struggling with at the moment?
Yeah, so I definitely do speak to a lot of business owners, and it's really no surprise that they're all experiencing the same issues and problems. So I think one of the main ones is that they often don't know what to do next. So they don't really have like a clear strategy, and so maybe the sort of marketing planning is a little bit lacking in their business. And that can be because they're either just like personally not a planner, they like to kind of wing it, or they,
Yeah.
yes, or they actually just don't know how that process should work, what it should look like, how to even, sit down and type it out, or if they're a bit old school, pen and paper, what should a strategy look like? What should it include? How do they kind of build on that?
Yeah. And, I guess even part of that can be like, what is even possible? I want to have a business, but I don't know what my goal could be. What could I possibly achieve in the next year, which I think is a question mark for some people.
Yes. And a lot of them are a bit scared to put a revenue goal out there, for example, because then they feel like if they don't achieve that, then maybe they failed. So they're too scared to even, put that kind of goal. But without a revenue goal, you can't sort of calculate how you're going to reach that, and what channels you should be using, and how much revenue you're anticipating from each of those channels. And so it's a really important part of that strategic planning process, is actually setting yourself a goal,
Yeah.
and being okay if you don't reach it, because you at least need to have something that you are aiming towards, instead of just kind of on the
Mm.
mouse wheel and
Yeah, yeah.
not really getting anywhere.
And I guess there's that from like I guess from a mindset perspective, there's we don't want to hang our hat on a revenue figure as being some kind of evidence of success or failure. That's not what it's about. It's about having a qualitative measuring stick that we can use to measure our progress, and also to figure out what on earth we should be putting in that strategy, and whether we need to change it along the way, because things do unfortunately change all the time in the
Yep,
online business
absolutely.
world. Yeah.
And then I guess the next one I would say is quite common, is really knowing what to invest in when it comes to digital marketing. So, what sort of paid channel should they be looking at? Should they be looking at outsourcing? And usually associated with that is that real strong fear around making the wrong decision, or losing their hard-earned money. And so what
Great
tends
work.
to happen, you tend to get the inaction,
Mm,
because if you're too scared to do something, then you just do nothing.
mm.
um,
Yeah. And then probably part of that is also what budget, like even once you've figured out what channels you might invest in, what budget should you put towards it?
mm,
Another question mark there, I think, too.
yeah, and how do you work that out?
Yeah. And how do you tell whether that investment is worthwhile, I suppose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I would say my next one on my list is motivation and accountability, and particularly for business owners who are a solo, business owner. They're the only one in their business. They're wearing all the hats. They're doing everything, and so working, solo can be really hard.
Mm,
I know you went through that with your own business, and so did I when I had one as well. So having that motivation, and being accountable for, doing all the things, I think that's something that a lot of, solo business owners struggle with, for sure.
yeah, definitely. And I think part of that, I mean, I know for me, when I think about, especially in my early days in business, I had very, very, very definite strengths and weaknesses, and things that I really loved and things that I really hated. And, you end up spending all your time on the stuff that you know how to do and that you enjoy doing, and not stuff on the stuff that you more
Yes.
time on the other stuff because you don't like it or whatever. Some of those things you don't like are probably necessary though. So having that
Yes.
accountability, but yeah, like you say, when you're a solo operator, just not having anyone to talk to or bounce ideas off is very isolating.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. You really
Mm,
kind of need that sort of support system, which, obviously, as we're working with an agency or working with a coach, is so valuable, because you do get that additional support, and those extra kind of cheerleaders on the
mm,
side, who aren't a member of your family,
mm,
who might be sick
exactly.
of hearing you talk about your business.
Yes. Yep.
And it's interesting, Kath, that you say, about doing the things that you like to do. What often I see with the ladies and the business owners I speak to, is that they might tell me that they're spending a lot of time, they're very busy in their business, but they're doing the things that they like to do, but they're not necessarily having a big enough impact on the growth of their business. So they're spending time on, they're busy all the time, but it's low impact tasks that they're doing. Perhaps they're engaging on Instagram for an hour a day. And I'm not saying that that's not something you should do, but if you haven't sent an email for 7 weeks, then maybe you shouldn't be spending an hour a day engaging with your audience on Instagram. So it's, those things that perhaps you feel like you're achieving because you're busy all the time, but are
Mm,
you really prioritizing the best use of your time, I guess.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that, I guess, links back to our first point, which was about having that clear strategy. So if
Mm.
you have a strategy in place, then that's
Yes.
giving you, something to really work towards and follow, rather than just randomly filling up your day, being busy, but not
Mm.
actually
Yeah.
necessarily achieving
Not getting
what.
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I guess having those priorities mapped out in a time frame, like it's one thing to have a goal, for example, but if you save, all the high impact stuff till the 11th hour, then it's going to be really hard to hit it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Like trying to, create your Black Friday campaigns the day before Black Friday.
Yes.
Yes, we like to plan that a little bit further in advance.
There will be. I know I was speaking to one lovely business owner earlier today, and yeah, I mean, in her case, in her defense, she's been sick, quite sick. So yeah, she's getting onto it today. Not
Mm,
quite the day before, but close.
getting close, cutting it fine.
Yeah.
Um, and probably my last struggle that I wanted to mention today is the one that pretty much everyone tells me, and that is they don't know how to generate profit from their Facebook ads. They're really struggling with the meta, and how to sort of tackle that beast.
Yes, beast it is.
Yes.
It's like, I feel like it's like a hydra, from Greek mythology. It's like you chop one head off and then
Yeah,
two grow. It changes so often. You
it
just
does.
yeah, if you're trying to work it out alone, you kind of master it, and then the whole interface will change again, and the strategy that you were using just, might not work anymore.
Mm.
Um, I don't remember where. I mean, when you started your business, when you had that quite a few years ago, but Facebook ads they were already around, I think, at that point.
Yeah, and
Early days. Yeah.
it was early days, and it was back when I guess it was perhaps a little bit easier if you were just doing it yourself to kind of throw up an ad and you would, get a return, and it was all fantastic. But obviously over the last 10 years, Meta has changed so much,
So much.
and there's so many more people who are fighting for, that advertising space.
Hmm.
The technology is, just insanely different to what it was like 10 years ago. So,
It's even
um,
a year ago now, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think we have definitely seen that it's still highly possible to generate, profit from Facebook ads, and to be able to scale that profit as well.
Hmm.
Um, with, the right expertise and knowledge and experience, it absolutely can be done.
Yeah. And, realistically, I mean, I know it's not a super simple interface to master. It is a bit of a when you go into the ads manager and you try and learn the software, how to use that interface is, it's not a walk in the park. It's not like just putting a post up on Instagram. However, it also is something that if you are earlier stage in your business, you can learn enough to get you to the next stage. Like, you're probably not going to learn enough to scale to multi-million dollars a year, so initially,
Mm.
but that's what you don't
Yeah.
need that, like that kind of
No, that's
super
right.
fast scaling is extraordinarily painful to
Yeah.
go through.
But you can absolutely, build out a successful funnel as long as you're, impacting on the three different stages of the funnel, and you're really thinking about your customer buyer journey as, you're filtering your potential customers through that funnel.
Mm.
There's a lot of things that you can do as long as you're not just throwing up the same type of ad and copy at all levels of the funnel, and so everyone is just getting that same messaging. The messaging is so important, and I think that's probably something that we often do see missing when we do audit accounts, is that
Mm.
that content, it's not been differentiated between the different levels of the funnel. So,
Yeah.
the same sort of creative and copy is being, sometimes shared to a cold audience as well as a warm audience.
Yeah, definitely. And I think probably the other thing that I would say that I see missing a lot, when I'm auditing Facebook ad accounts, for example, is um, not, and I'm certainly not blaming anyone for not understanding this, because most people don't understand this, right?
Yeah.
But the way that this platform works, it is AI driven now. The algorithm that runs Facebook ads or Meta ads, it's AI driven. But AI is only going to be as good as the data that you feed it. And in regards to advertising, you have to teach it who your customer is and what kind of content that they want to engage with. And the other thing that you kind of have, that is part and parcel with this, is that Meta ads are only going to be worthwhile and work well for any of us if the platform itself is still valuable for users. And so the primary purpose for Meta is to actually have users spending time on the platforms, and that means we all actually need to create some really good engaging content that our audience wants to engage with. So that's often like, we've got to feed that algorithm with that kind of engagement data and conversion data. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I
yeah
think that was my list that I wanted to talk about today. That's probably the main struggles that that business owners tell me, they're struggling with when we do sort of, hop on a call together. That's sort of my top five. Usually they're telling me at least three of those in
Yeah,
every call.
yeah, yeah, I would concur. It'd be interesting to hear if our listeners want to send in a message, a DM, or anything, hit reply to one of our emails and let us know if you resonate with any of those. And so I guess people, they're booking in for a strategy session with you, and that, essentially you're there to help them nut out what on earth is the issues or the bottlenecks or the struggle areas in their, specifically with their digital marketing, that's preventing them from hitting their goals. But also, obviously you're helping them to work out what their goals should be and might be over the next year. And then you'll also find out what they've been doing so far, so you've got a bit of a lay of the land. But then what happens next? Like, how do you kind of help them figure out a strategy?
Yeah, so that the figuring out of the strategy is something that that you and I do
Yeah.
together
I know the
offline.
answer to this question. But
Yeah. So after that first call with me, where I go through quite a lot of information. I'm sharing information, but I'm also asking quite a lot of different questions. I promise it's definitely not a scary experience to go through, though. There's nothing too difficult. And then usually we will request to get admin level access to all the various dashboards of the brand that I, have been speaking with. So into their ads dashboards, their email, their Shopify as well, and then sometimes also their Google Analytics. And then you and I sit down and we go through those dashboards, and we're really having a deep dive into the metrics that are in there. So, we're looking at their conversion metrics. We're looking at, is there evidence that there is demand for their product? We're, wanting to make sure that their product, is it a really saturated category, or is it something that has, a really strong point of difference? Is it clear from what we're looking at that they understand their customer buyer journey, and that they really understand who their target market is? Or is there maybe some work that, sort of needs to be done there? And also, is this what's missing? So what's working well, what could be improved, and what might be missing. So obviously, the more data that's there, the more we're able to get out of that process. So people who
and
have been running
personalize it.
ads.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the absence of that data, though, we have a whole lot of data that is like benchmark averages for different product categories as well. So we're able to at least have a starting point. So for anyone who's got a brand new brand and you don't have that data yet, it's not a lost cause. Obviously, you have to get data, but that requires a plan to start with. So yeah. Those benchmarks that, even in those instances where we're looking at existing data, we are looking at how well are they actually performing against where they should be, for whatever
Yep.
category that they're in, because that also kind of helps guide what strategies should be employed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess something else that we always want to take into consideration is what are the goals.
Mm.
So, some of the business owners that I speak to will say to me, in 6 months' time, I want to go from doing $20,000 per month in revenue to 100,000 per revenue and per month in revenue. And others will say, I want to go from 15,000 to 30,000. Everyone has different goals. Another thing that we always want to take into account is their actual products that they sell. Where are they manufactured? What is the sort of lead time for that? Have they, do they have any issues with stock levels? Because
Yeah.
the last thing we would want to do is to bring them on board, start working with them, have a massive increase in revenue, and then we get that phone call or that email saying we're out of stock, we're not going to have stock for 8 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
we do deal, we have a backup plan. We're always going to think creatively to help a client if they do get in that situation. But obviously, it's our preference to not be in that situation where they are out of stock. And so that's where part of that strategy and
Mm,
planning comes in to the
mm,
process as well. Is really knowing where we're aiming to reach with revenue and what that's going to look like in terms of the manufacturing timelines
mm.
as well.
Definitely. And then just side by side with that, also looking at clients' profit margins, from their pricing and cost to produce, and also whether it is the kind of product that is a multiple repeat purchase product, such as,
Mm.
say, skincare, for example, versus something
Yeah,
like a one-off purchase that, you're going to have a very different strategy, in both of those
absolutely.
scenarios.
Yeah. And also the seasonal brands. So, some of the
Definitely.
brands we work with are definitely more of a seasonal product. And so we obviously need to take that into account. But at the same time, we're also wanting to improve their sales in what might have traditionally been their off season. So building that into the sort of strategy as well as to how we would broach that side of
Mhm.
the business so that they're not having a massive downturn in what's traditionally their off season. So I'm thinking more swimwear brands and things like that.
Mm, mm. Yeah. So ultimately, what you're able to go back to these business owners with is a fairly personalized plan that is based off the data and benchmarks, and also,
Mm,
the conversion metrics that need to be hit from traffic and conversion rates and all that kind of stuff, and the strategies that achieve those things. So
mm,
whilst there's never 100% certainty in anything in the digital marketing world, or probably life in general, really, there's a whole lot more certainty in this kind of a plan versus going in with no idea,
mm.
or just the winging it approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Um, we're definitely a team of planners here. We love our stats, we love our metrics. We love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah, we do still have team members who like to call Mondays metrics Mondays. um, I thought it might be a good idea if we just kind of talk through one recent example of going through this process, and I'm sure the lovely Kylie from Morgan Annie Skincare, morganannie.com.au. She won't mind me sharing not cold hard data, but just a little bit about the process. So Kylie has a makeup brand, makeup and skincare, I beg your pardon.
Mm,
And she's been in business for some time. I think like quite a few business owners, she, had a really nice little boom through COVID times. And then this year has definitely been a lot more challenging. I think a lot of businesses who either started during COVID times or before COVID times enjoyed that nice little e-commerce
mm.
demand increase, or little being the wrong word there, big
Yes.
increase. And you sort of didn't have to really do too much to stoke that fire. The
Mm,
demand was just there. We were all at home. We couldn't go to the shops. So of course we were going to shop online. And obviously that's not the case this year. And so that's kind of, it's been a much harder year just in terms of getting that traffic and sales, because we actually have to go back to really doing a good job of that marketing. And so, in Kylie's case, and you have to agree, like makeup in particular, that's a hard product to sell online. What color do you choose? Just for example, like, how do you know if you've got the right color foundation? Anyway, so not an easy product category, and definitely she, had experienced some really good success in the past few years, but this year has been challenging. And so we reconnected again just a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think it was
Having a bit
about
of a
that
chat
time
with you.
frame.
Yeah. And so we went through this process of really looking through all of her channels. She's actually doing a fantastic job on email. So shout out to Kylie. I think first time I worked with Kylie, she was a coaching client a couple of, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And she really didn't like writing. So now she's mastered it and she's doing really, really well, which is fantastic. But the traffic channels just were not driving traffic. And it was costing too much money and it just was not consistent and all of that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, she did have an existing customer base, but if you are in that position and your repeat customer rate is really, really high, you're not going to grow, because you're not acquiring new customers. And eventually there's always attrition with repeat customers as well. So you end up declining slowly. So yeah, what we ended up finding is, that there were some errors in some of the ad setups and some old setup strategies and content strategies as well that worked a couple of years ago, but just aren't really the right way to do it now.
Yeah.
And that was impacting her costs and her results at the end of the day. So yeah, so now she's got her tailored plan. We are in the middle, just rolled out all of her new campaigns. So it's pretty exciting times. And, she gets to have more fun doing the stuff that she actually enjoys doing, which is
absolutely
emails and working with her lovely customers on their beauty and makeup stuff. So
yeah, and I think as well, like Kylie has loads of amazing content, but I think we've kind of done a bit of a refresh of how that looks across the funnel as well, because it kind of was almost a little bit too samey in terms of the type of content across the levels of the funnel, like we mentioned earlier. She's definitely great at video content, which is fantastic. We know a lot of people are still scared of doing that, but it's, it is important. But then so is, other types of content as well. So, still images and carousels and, used at the right place in the ads funnel, still fantastic and still, really important to include as part of the strategy.
The other thing too, which is something that we spend a lot of time focusing on, certainly this is something I'm working on with Kylie, but we do this with most businesses. Not everybody needs it, but most do, and that's some conversion rate optimization on their website. And so it might not be the whole website. It might be, one of the main product pages or, collection pages, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If it's not converting at a really good rate, sometimes it's not the ads, sometimes it's the landing page. And I think that's probably a sticking point for a lot of e-commerce businesses, is really not putting enough effort into actually optimizing the landing pages for purchase. So
yeah, or just sending everything to the homepage, or a collection page.
Not all page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having that landing page that's really targeted towards the pain points as well, is so important. And when you get that click through, you really want to make the most of every single paid click, especially that is coming through to the website. So obviously it's super important to have your email marketing set up so you're capturing their email, but at the same time you want that page that they land on to really resonate with your target market.
Absolutely.
And I definitely think that's something that a lot of brands aren't doing with their Facebook ads. They're not having specific landing pages, or they literally are just using the homepage.
Yeah, definitely. And there is still a common trait of people, they build their website and they think that's done. They've ticked that off their list.
Yes.
Never need to look at that again, except to maybe, mark products in stock or out of stock or whatever. But no, it's not the case. We need to be working on that all the time. So,
And I think that's where having like somebody outside the business actually looking at the website can be so beneficial, because it can be as simple as you don't have the sizing information. The size chart isn't on the product page. And we do know that generally speaking, potential shoppers can be a little bit on the lazy side, and they kind of want to be spoon-fed everything. So, sometimes just going over your website with a fine-tooth comb and thinking about it as someone who knows nothing about your business or your products, if they land on one of your product pages, is everything there that they need? Are they finding information on the shipping? Are they finding the size chart? Do they know about your return policy? Is it all very clear? If there is any kind of delay in dispatch, is that clearly, if it's a pre-order, is it clearly indicated? All of these things can prevent people from coming across the line and placing an order if they can't see that there. And then obviously that is something that's going to impact your paid traffic, because you're paying to send these people to your website, but they're just not converting because there's some little bit of information, or a button's in the wrong place, or it's the wrong color, or you're not using tabs to make the information easy to find. So getting that that extra help around these types of things can make a huge impact to the overall revenue that's coming in.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So for any listeners who, like, we offer these strategy sessions. It's not just a chit chat. It's, as you can hear, it's quite a detailed process that we go through, and we do offer it for free for a certain number of people every week. Obviously, Chelsea's got a finite amount of time. However, so what do people do if they do want to book in for one with you?
Yeah, so absolutely. I'm sure, Kath, you will share the link to where they can book in. And then we have a few really simple questions that we just ask as part of that booking process, just to make sure that, we know a bit of information about you and your business. And then you'll get access directly into my diary, and you can book a time that works for you. It shows in your current time zone. So for everyone that doesn't know, I'm based in Perth. So I'm usually a few hours behind everyone that I am talking to. But I have, various times on various days available. And then once you submit that request, I actually have to manually just approve it at my end. So it's not an instant case of you send the request, it's going to pop up in your calendar. It does actually just need to get manually approved at our end. So if you are doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning, which does sometimes happen, just wait till business hours and it will get approved. And then you'll get that information it'll come into your calendar. We do the meeting on Zoom. You'll get some reminders about it. And I guess the one other thing is, we understand that things can happen in life. If you've got, kids, partners, pets, something might come up that means you need to reschedule. The process for that is really easy as well. So yeah, you can do that, because we don't want me sitting here on a Zoom call and somebody not turning up.
No. So yeah, it's super easy. You can just click and find another time. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we will share the link in the podcast show notes page, and feel free to go ahead and book yours in. I would certainly recommend, just from my perspective, especially for those of you listening who that you're a wing it type and you're not somebody who has a deep level of skill in planning and strategizing, then this is probably a good thing for you to do. So there's your invitation. And like I said, we'll include the link in the podcast show notes page, so you can just click through and do that with ease. Thank you so much for jumping on with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure getting you on here. I mean, I get to talk to you all the time, but our listeners have not had the pleasure. So thank you, Chelsea. And listeners, thank you so much for joining me again. And I look forward to being with you on the show again next week. Bye for now.